Imagine a world without cities, without medicine, without any of the technology we rely on every single day. A world where humanity stood on the very edge of disappearing forever. This wasn't a distant fantasy. It was our reality. Our home was a harsh planet that showed no mercy, a world that tested our species again and again, pushing us to the absolute limit. For thousands of years, survival was anything but guaranteed. Devastating ice ages swept across the globe, freezing entire continents and locking away precious resources. When the ice retreated, crippling droughts followed, turning lush lands into barren deserts and starving generations. In this unforgiving wilderness, we were not the apex predators. We were the prey. Deadly animals ruled the wild, and silent, unseen diseases could wipe out entire communities in the blink of an eye. There were moments, bottlenecks, in our history where the human population dropped to just a few thousand individuals worldwide. Think about that. Fewer people than live in a small town today, scattered across the entire planet. Extinction wasn't just a distant theory, it was a real, tangible possibility. Nature almost won. We were fragile creatures in a world of giants. We had no sharp claws, no powerful fangs, no thick fur to protect us from the biting cold. Every single day was a gamble, a desperate struggle against hunger, the elements, and the constant threat of death. And yet, here we are. How is that possible? How did a species so seemingly weak manage to endure when everything was stacked against it? This story isn't found in most textbooks. It's a story of silent struggles, of forgotten moments when our ancestors stared into the abyss and refused to let go. It's a story of hidden strengths, of ingenuity born from desperation, and of a resilience that is woven into our very DNA. We often talk about how humanity came to dominate the planet, but that's not the most incredible part of our story. The real miracle is that we survived it all. This is not a tale of conquest. It is a tale of endurance. It's about how a handful of our ancestors, armed with little more than their minds and an unbreakable will to live, held on through the darkest of times. It's about discovering the moments that truly defined us, the moments when we were almost erased from existence. Because the most important question isn't how humans conquered the world. It's how we survived when nature almost won. Join us as we uncover these lost chapters of human history and reveal just how close we came to losing everything. You might be surprised to learn what it truly took for us to still be here today. The first topic of discussion is when Earth turned hostile. Imagine a world without maps, without forecasts, without a single guarantee that the sun will rise the same way twice. This was Earth for most of human history, not a nurturing home, but a relentless, unforgiving battleground. Long before the first cities were built, our planet was a place of violent and unpredictable change. Temperatures would plummet without warning, plunging entire regions into deep freezes. Rain, the lifeblood of the land, could vanish for decades, turning lush forests into cracked, barren deserts. Familiar landscapes, places our ancestors had known for generations, would become utterly unlivable, forcing them into the unknown. Early humans were completely exposed. There were no walls, no advanced shelters, no backup plans. Think about the ice ages. We often picture them as slow, gradual events, but for the people living through them, they were a creeping terror. Generation by generation, the cold advanced, shrinking the forests, freezing the rivers, and closing off vital migration paths. The animals our ancestors depended on for food faced a choice: adapt, move, or die. And many of them simply vanished. As the herds disappeared, hunger became a constant companion, a shadow that stalked every family. But the climate wasn't the only threat. The ancient world was ruled by predators far stronger and faster than any human. Imagine sharing your world with saber-toothed cats, massive cave bears, and packs of giant wolves. These weren't just animals. They were apex hunters. And humans were on their menu. A single misstep, one moment of inattention, could mean the end of an entire bloodline. Every hunt, every journey, every night was a gamble with death. Then there was the silent killer, disease. Without any understanding of germs or medicine, illness was a terrifying mystery. It moved invisibly through small tight-knit groups, and a single infection could wipe out a family in days. People didn't know why their loved ones were dying. They only knew that death was swift, sudden, and seemingly random. And through it all, the earth itself kept pushing. Volcanoes erupted, spewing ash that choked the sky and poisoned the land for miles. Rivers would carve new paths overnight, washing away shelters and settlements. Catastrophic storms could descend without warning, destroying everything in their path. There was no stability, No certainty, only the constant, grinding pressure of survival in a world that seemed determined to erase them. For most species, these conditions would have been a death sentence. The fossil record is filled with creatures that couldn't adapt to such relentless change. But early humans did something extraordinary. They refused to stay still. When the land failed, they movedong. When their traditional food sources disappeared, they experimented with new ones, learning which plants were safe and which were deadly. When the bitter cold arrived, they adapted their behavior. They learned to huddle together for warmth, to layer animal hides for clothing, and to build smarter, more resilient shelters. This wasn't an act of grand courage. It was survival born from pure desperation, fused with a remarkable intelligence. Our ancestors learned to read the land with an intimacy we can barely comprehend today. They noticed the subtle patterns in nature, the timing of animal migrations, the seasonal return of edible plants, the faint signs that warned of approaching danger. Slowly, painstakingly, survival became less about raw strength and more about keen awareness and shared knowledge. Earth had turned hostile, but humanity refused to surrender its foothold. This incredible resilience, however, came at a staggering cost. The human population dwindled. Groups were forced to split apart, scattering across vast, empty landscapes. Entire regions of the world saw their human inhabitants vanish completely, leaving behind only scattered stone tools as evidence of their struggle. Survival was never guaranteed. It was a temporary loan, a stretch of borrowed time. And as the planet grew ever harsher, a terrifying truth began to emerge. Humanity was being pushed closer and closer to a precipice. They were approaching a tipping point where just one more global disaster, one more catastrophic shift, could be the final blow. That moment when the fate of our entire species hung by a single, fragile thread is where the story takes its darkest turn. Because soon, our ancestors would face the greatest danger of all, the chilling reality of near. The second topic of discussion is the brink of extinction. Have you ever thought about just how fragile human existence is? We see billions of people today, but there were moments in our history when the entire human species could have fit into a small village. It sounds like science fiction, but it's a scientific fact. At least once, maybe more, our numbers crashed to just a few thousand individuals worldwide. Some estimates put it even lower, maybe only 1,000 people. That's not a civilization. That's a tiny, flickering flame in a hurricane. One disease, one sudden climate shift, one generation that couldn't find enough food, and we would have been gone forever. This wasn't some slow, gradual decline. This was a catastrophic drop. Imagine the world back then. During extreme ice ages or volcanic winters, the ecosystems we depended on collapsed. The great herds of animals we hunted vanished. Plants withered. For our ancestors, this meant starvation. Hunting parties would come back empty-handed day after day. Children, the most vulnerable, wouldn't survive the harsh conditions. Birth rates would plummet. Entire tribes, entire cultures would simply disappear, leaving no trace, no bones, no stories. Think about what that life must have been like. A world where you might walk for years and never meet another group of humans. A world where every single child born was a miracle, and their survival was the tribe's top priority. A world where losing even one skilled hunter or one wise elder weakened the entire group, pushing you all closer to the edge. This was life on the brink of extinction. It was a constant state of emergency. What makes this period so terrifying is how utterly unprepared our ancestors were. They had no backup plans. There were no seed vaults, no vast libraries of stored knowledge beyond the stories and skills passed down orally. There was absolutely no guarantee that the sun would rise on a world that still had humans in it. The pressure must have been unimaginable. Every decision mattered. Every mistake could be fatal. And yet, in the face of this ultimate crisis, something remarkable happened. Something that goes against the survival of the fittest narrative we often hear. Instead of turning on each other, hoarding resources, and fighting over scraps, many human groups grew closer. They did the opposite of what you might expect. They shared food instead of hiding it. They cared for the sick and injured instead of abandoning them as a burden. They shared knowledge, teaching neighboring groups new tool-making techniques or where to find hidden water sources. This wasn't just kindness. It was a revolutionary survival strategy. Cooperation became our superpower. It increased the odds just enough to pull us through. The immense pressure also sparked incredible creativity. It was innovate or die. Stone tools didn't just get a little better. They improved rapidly. New, more complex blades, spear points, and scraping tools appeared. Hunting strategies evolved from simple ambushes to sophisticated, coordinate drives that required teamwork and communication. Our diet expanded dramatically. Humans became the ultimate opportunists. If it was edible, we ate it. Roots, insects, shellfish, birds, eggs, small rodents. We learned to process foods that were previously toxic. This flexibility, this willingness to try anything, became a cornerstone of our survival. And perhaps the most important strategy of all was knowing when to leave. Migration saved our species more than once. When one valley dried up, when the herds moved on, our ancestors didn't stubbornly stay and starve. They packed up their few belongings and walked into the unknown. They faced new predators, new climates, new dangers, because staying put meant certain death. This constant movement across continents spread us out. It was like diversifying a financial portfolio. It spread the risk. No single volcanic eruption, no localized drought, could wipe out everyone at once. There was always another group, somewhere over the horizon, carrying the spark of humanity forward. Nature, with its ice ages and supervolcanoes, was trying to erase us, but our ancestors stayed one step ahead. Not by being the strongest or the fastest, but by being the most adaptable, the most cooperative, and the most resilient. They refused to accept defeat. They just kept moving, kept innovating, kept sharing. These near-extinction events left permanent scars on us, not just in our collective memory, but in our very biologies. These genetic bottlenecks shaped the human gene pool, and some scientists believe they shaped our psychology, how we form bonds, how we perceive threats, our innate need for community. They taught us the most brutal and important lesson of all. Survival does unbelong to the strongest. It belongs to the adaptable. But adaptation alone wasn't the whole story. We were still physically weak compared to the megafauna of the Ice Age. We had no claws, no fangs, no natural armor. So, this raises a crucial question. If we weren't the strongest, how did we eventually come to dominate the planet? How did humans survive and then thrive without raw power? That's a story for next time. The third topic of discussion is survival without strength. If survival was just about strength, humans would have been wiped out ages ago. Seriously, think about it. We don't have sharp claws. We don't have thick fur to protect us from the cold. And we definitely can't outrun a cheetah or a lion. Compared to the massive, powerful animals roaming the ancient world, early humans were incredibly fragile. A single predator could easily overpower one of us. A simple fall from a tree could be a death sentence. Even the environment itself, the blistering heat, the freezing cold, the violent storms felt stronger than us. So, how on earth did this seemingly weak, vulnerable species not only survive, but eventually dominate the planet? The answer is both simple and profound. Humans stopped playing the game of physical strength. Instead of trying to compete with muscle, we started to compete with our minds and our behavior. The first big shift was realizing we were stronger together. An individual human alone in the wild was an easy meal, but in a group, that was a different story. A group of humans became unpredictable and formidable. Together, they could make a lot of noise, brandish sticks, and throw stones to scare away predators that would have easily taken down a single person. In a group, they could protect the injured, find and defend resources like water and food, and keep watch for danger in shifts. This social cohesion was our first, and perhaps most important, survival technology. Next, humans learned to control one of the most powerful instincts: fear. Most animals react to danger instantly. They hear a noise, they run. They see a shadow, they scatter. Humans, however, learn to observe first. They developed the patience to watch, to analyze a situation before acting. They learned when it was absolutely necessary to run, and when it was smarter to stay perfectly still and hidden. This calculated patience helped them avoid unnecessary risks, conserving precious energy and reducing the chances of a fatal encounter. This was a rare trait in the animal kingdom, and it gave us a huge advantage. Then came the invention of tools. Now, we're not talking about advanced weaponry at first. The earliest tools were incredibly simple: a stone with a sharp edge, a heavy rock for crushing, a pointed wooden stick. But these simple inventions were revolutionary because they extended the human body. A weak arm holding a spear could now hunt from a safe distance. A fragile hand holding a sharpened flint could now butcher an animal, cut plants, build shelters, and defend against an attacker. Tools were the great equalizer, bridging the gap between our physical weakness and the strength of the world around us. And then, fire. The discovery and control of fire changed absolutely everything. It wasn't just about providing warmth on a cold night. Fire created a circle of safety. Most predators are instinctively afraid of it, so a campfire kept the dangers of the night at bay. It also transformed our diet. Cooking food made it much easier to digest and unlocked more nutrients, which in turn helped fuel our growing brains. Suddenly, the long, dark, dangerous nights became a time for safety, for storytelling, for community. Fire gave humans time to rest, to plan for the next day, and to think. But perhaps the most uniquely human survival strategy was something that seems counterintuitive. We learned to care for the weak. In most of the animal kingdom, if an individual gets seriously injured or sick, they're left behind. It's a harsh but practical reality of survival of the fittest. Humans did the exact opposite. Archaeological evidence shows that early humans cared for the wounded, fed the sick, and protected their elders. They would carry injured tribe members for miles, share their food, and defend those who couldn't defend themselves. Why? Because they understood that an individual's value wasn't just in their physical strength. An elder, too old to hunt, held a lifetime of knowledge where to find water during a drought, which plants were medicinal, how to predict the changing seasons. An injured hunter, once healed, could hunt again. By preserving every member of the group, they preserved a priceless reservoir of knowledge, skills, and experience. This was something brute strength could never, ever replace. So, this struggle for survival without physical strength forced humans down a different evolutionary path. It forced us to think, to cooperate, to innovate. Our minds became our claws, our communities became our armor, and our tools became our fangs. Thinking became our greatest weapon, but survival still wasn't guaranteed. All of these strategies helped humans react to the challenges of nature, to survive day, but to truly secure our future, to not just survive but to thrive. We needed something even more powerful. We needed a way to stay one step ahead of nature, not just react to it. We needed the ultimate tool for long-term success. We needed to learn how to adapt. Our ability to change our behavior, to create new technologies, and to pass that knowledge down through generations would become the key to unlocking our species' incredible destiny. This journey from fragile prey to planetary pioneers is the greatest survival story ever told. It's a reminder that our true power isn't in our muscles, but in our minds and in our ability to work together. The fourth topic of discussion is the adaptation advantage. Have you ever wondered what our species' greatest superpower is? It's not strength, or speed, or even intelligence in the way we usually think about it. It's something far more profound. Adaptation. This isn't just about surviving. It's about thriving in a world that is constantly changing. And humans. We mastered this art better than any other species on Earth. Think about it. When the climate shifted dramatically, our ancestors didn't just sit around and wait for sunny days to return. They changed with the world. As ice ages descended, plunging temperatures didn't wipe them out. Instead, these harsh, cold regions forced an incredible invention: clothing. They learned to use animal hides and furs, not just for food, but for warmth, creating a portable shelter that allowed them to push into territories no primate had ever conquered. And what about when the rain stopped and lush forests turned into dry, arid lands? Many species would have starved, their primary food sources disappearing. But humans, they were pushed towards innovation. They discovered new, previously ignored food sources. They learned to dig for tubers, to process tough grains, and to track animals across vast, open plains. Each challenge was a lesson in disguise. The same story unfolded along the coastlines. The sea wasn't a barrier, it was an opportunity. Coastal areas introduced our ancestors to a whole new menu. They learned the rhythms of the tides, mastered the art of fishing, and gathered shellfish, creating a reliable and protein-rich diet. While other animals were specialists, locked into a single environment and a single menu, humans became the ultimate generalists. We didn't just survive, we diversified. Forests, plains, mountains, shorelines, we made them all our home. This incredible flexibility, this refusal to be tied down to one way of life, made us incredibly resilient. It made extinction a lot harder. But how did we adapt so quickly and effectively? Terre game changer was language. Before complex speech, every individual had to learn life's harsh lessons through personal experience. A poisonous berry, a dangerous predator, a hidden, single-itch lesson could be fatal. But with language, everything changed. Knowledge could be shared. It could travel faster than danger. One group's deadly mistake became another group's life-saving warning, passed down through spoken words. Storytelling wasn't just for entertainment around a campfire. It was a survival manual. Stories contained the collective memory of the tribe, which plants were safe to eat, where to find water in a drought, how to read the tracks of a predator. An elder's wisdom could save a generation. Instead of learning everything from scratch, humans could build upon the accumulated knowledge of those who came before. This was a revolutionary leap. It allowed adaptation to happen at the speed of sound, not at the slow, brutal pace of natural selection. Our adaptation wasn't just about tools and food, it was social. Humans learned to form bonds that went far beyond immediate family. We created tribes, alliances between different groups. This wasn't always born out of pure kindness. It was a brilliant survival strategy. Cooperation reduced conflict over scarce resources. It allowed for the sharing of food, tools, and information across vast distances. If one group had a bad hunt, an allied group might share their surplus. If a new threat emerged, word could spread through this social network. Together, we were exponentially stronger and safer than we ever could be alone. Our social structures became a powerful tool for survival. Even our own biology started to adapt. Over thousands of generations, our bodies physically changed in response to the different environments we inhabited. In regions with intense sunlight, darker skin tones evolved to protect against UV radiation. In colder, darker climates, lighter skin tones emerged to maximize vitamin D production. Our digestive systems evolved to handle new diets, from the dairy of domesticated animals to the starchy foods of agriculture. Even our breathing patterns shifted. Humans living at high altitudes for generations developed physiological traits that allow them to thrive in low-oxygen air. These changes happened slowly, over immense timescales, but they were crucial. They were a testament to how deeply a species is intertwined with the world around us. Perhaps most importantly, humans learned to think ahead. We stopped just reacting to problems and started anticipating them. We observed the cycles of the seasons and learned to prepare for the lean months of winter. We developed methods to store food, drying meat, storing grains, creating a buffer against starvation. We planned migrations, following the herds or moving to warmer climates. We learned to read the sky for signs of changing weather and to watch the behavior of animals for clues about the future. Adaptation became proactive. We weren't just bending to nature's will. We were learning to dance with it. Nature threw everything it had at us. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, droughts, floods. It expected us to break, but instead, we bent. We learned. Every failed environment made our species smarter. Every loss made us more careful. Every survival event, every near miss with extinction, rewired the way we thought about the world. By embracing adaptation, instead of stubbornly resisting change, humans avoided the fate of countless other species that are now just fossils in the rock. We are the descendants of the flexible, the resourceful, the cooperative, the ultimate survivors. But survival wasn't just about adapting to nature. Eventually, as we grew more confident and our knowledge expanded, humans learned something new, something powerful, and something very, very dangerous. We realized we didn't always have to adapt to the world. We could start to adapt the world to us. We could clear forests, divert rivers, and domesticate plants and animals. We could begin to shape the planet to fit our own needs. And that single, world-altering realization, well, that changed everything. The age of adaptation was slowly giving way to the age of control, setting the stage for the world we live in today. But that's a story for another time. The fifth topic of discussion is how humans refuse to disappear. At some point in our history, survival stopped being an accident. Humans began to refuse extinction. This wasn't a single, conscious decision, but a pattern that repeated itself over and over again in the face of unimaginable odds. Whenever nature pushed our ancestors to the very edge, they responded not with overwhelming force, but with a stubborn, quiet persistence. So what was their secret? Why are we here when so many other species have vanished? One of the biggest reasons was mental resilience. Think about it. In a world filled with predators, natural disasters, and constant uncertainty, fear was a daily companion. But for early humans, fear didn't paralyze them forever. Loss didn't stop them from trying again. Imagine a group losing their shelter, their food stores, everything they had, to a flood or a fire. It would have been devastating. Yet, they rebuilt. Imagine a hunter failing day after day, returning empty-handed to hungry faces. The pressure would have been immense. Yet, they went out and hunted again the next morning. Parents who lost children to sickness or accidents still found the strength to raise the next generation. This emotional endurance, this ability to get back up after being knocked down, was absolutely critical. It was the engine of survival. Alongside this inner strength, humans developed a powerful sense of identity. They started to see themselves as part of something much larger than just their own individual existence. They belonged to a family, a group, a lineage, a shared story. This made survival meaningful. It wasn't just about the grim task of living another day. It was about keeping the group alive, carrying the torch for those who came before, and ensuring a future for those who would come after. This collective identity was a powerful motivator, transforming the struggle for survival into a mission. And to strengthen these bonds, rituals emerged. Think of the earliest burials, the symbols etched onto bone, the markings on cave walls, the first forms of art. These weren't luxuries, they were essential tools for social cohesion. In a world of chaos, these shared practices created unity and reinforced the idea that they were all in this together. A united group, where members looked out for one another, was always going to survive better than a fractured, divided one. Rituals gave them a shared purpose and a way to process grief and celebrate life together. Humans also became calculated when the lands they knew failed them, when the climate shifted. The herds moved on, or the rivers dried up. They didn't just stay put and starve. They walked into the unknown. They journeyed into new forests, adapted to new climates, and faced new dangers. Most animal species are creatures of habit. They avoid uncertainty at all costs. Humans, on the other hand, step directly into it. This willingness to migrate, to explore, to be nomadic, was a genius survival strategy. It prevented a total collapse in any one location and spread humanity across the globe, diversifying our chances of survival. Of course, innovation played a huge role. Early humans were relentless tinkerers. They were constantly improving their tools, even when resources were scarce. A slightly sharper stone axe, a more effective hunting technique, a smarter design for a shelter that offered better protection from the cold. These might seem like tiny, insignificant improvements, but they added up over generations. Each small advantage, passed down and built upon, made life a little bit safer, a little more secure. It was a slow, steady march of progress, driven by necessity and ingenuity. Crucially, our ancestors learned from failure. They didn't repeat the same mistakes endlessly. They developed a powerful oral tradition, passing down knowledge from one generation to the next. Dangerous areas were remembered and avoided. The seasonal patterns of plants and animals were memorized. The properties of different stones and woods were cataloged in their collective memory. This knowledge, passed down through stories and instructions, formed an invisible survival manual. It was a library of experiences that allowed them to navigate their world more intelligently. And when things got really bad, when populations dropped to dangerously low levels, humans adapted socially. The survival of the group became more important than old rivalries. Smaller, struggling bands of people would merge. Cooperation would replace conflict. They realized that extinction was a far greater enemy than each other. In the face of a common threat, they chose unity. Nature, in a way, expected humans to give up. It threw everything it had at them. They endured hunger, cold, disease, fear, and loss on a scale we can barely comprehend. They survived not because they were physically stronger than nature, but because they were more stubborn. They simply refused to disappear. But this refusal, this incredible story of endurance, raises one final, unsettling question. If nature and circumstance tried so hard to erase humanity from the planet, why didn't they succeed? What was the final piece of the puzzle that allowed us not just to survive, but to eventually thrive? The answer to that is even more surprising than you might think. The sixth topic of discussion is why nature didn't finish us. Have you ever wondered why we're still here? Think about it. For millions of years, nature has been the ultimate force, shaping and destroying life. So many species, far stronger and faster than us, Abebani said. Yet humanity survived. Why? How did our fragile ancestors manage to avoid extinction when the odds were so overwhelmingly stacked against them? The answer is both surprising and profound. Nature almost won. It threw everything it had at us: ice ages, predators, famines, and plagues. But it underestimated one crucial thing about these strange bipedal apes. We weren't trying to conquer the planet. We were trying to understand it. Early humans realized that fighting nature head-on was a losing battle. You can't punch a blizzard into submission or outrun a volcanic eruption. So, instead of fighting, they started watching. They became the ultimate students of the natural world. They studied the subtle shift in the wind that hinted at a coming storm. They tracked the phases of the moon and connected them to the tides. They learned the migratory paths of animals, knowing when the herds would arrive and when they would leave. This wasn't just idle curiosity. It was a matter of life and death. Every observation, Every pattern recognized was another piece of a grand survival puzzle. Over thousands of years, we stopped being a species that simply reacted to disaster and became a species that could anticipate it. This ability to predict changed everything. It was humanity's first superpower. Knowing when the seasons would turn meant knowing when to plant seeds, when to harvest, and when to store food for the lean months ahead. Understanding animal behavior meant knowing the best time to hunt, where to find prey, and, just as importantly, when to stay hidden. Foresight turned the terrifying randomness of the world into a series of predictable cycles. It reduced the number of fatal surprises, a luxury that most other species never developed. While other animals were caught off guard by a sudden freeze or a prolonged drought, humans had already prepared. We had built shelters, stockpiled food, and knew where to find water. This foresight was our shield. But prediction alone wasn't enough. Another key to our survival was something simple. We didn't stay in one place. We spread out. We spread out. Humanity's relentless curiosity and need for resources pushed us across continents, over mountains, and through deserts. This global distribution became our insurance policy. Nature's power is immense, but it's often localized. A volcanic eruption might devastate an island, a flood could wipe out a valley, or a disease might ravage a single population. But no single disaster could eliminate all of humanity at once. While one group was struggling with a harsh winter in Europe, another was thriving in the warm savannas of Africa. While one community faced famine, another, thousands of miles away, was experiencing a bountiful harvest. This geographic separation acted as a firewall against extinction. Nature destroys locally, but humanity survived globally. As we spread out, something incredible happened within our own biology. Our genetic diversity exploded as different groups of humans adapted to different environments. From the frozen Arctic to the humid tropics, our gene pool became richer and more varied. Some populations developed better resistance to the cold. Others evolved defenses against local diseases. Some could digest new types of food more efficiently. This wasn't a master plan. It was simply the beautiful chaos of evolution at work. When these different groups eventually met and mixed, they shared their genetic advantages. This constant shuffling of the genetic deck made our species as a whole incredibly resilient. If a new plague emerged, it might devastate one group, but others with different genetic makeups would survive. Diversity became our strength. Then, we took a monumental step. We stopped just adapting to the environment and started actively shaping it. The discovery and control of fire was a turning point. Fire gave us warmth, protection from predators, and the ability to cook our food, unlocking more nutrients. But it also gave us the power to reshape the landscape itself. Humans began using controlled burns to clear forests, creating open grasslands that attracted grazing animals, which made hunting easier. We learned to divert small streams to water our crops, turning arid land into fertile gardens. We were no longer just passive victims of our survival. We were becoming active participants, and in some small ways, co-creators of our own ecosystem. This ability to manipulate our environment gave us a level of control that no other species had ever achieved. But the single most important reason nature didn't finish us off was our unique brand of intelligence. It wasn't that we were necessarily smarter in every way than other animals. It was that our intelligence was incredibly flexible and adaptable. We didn't evolve one perfect solution to a single problem. Instead, we evolved the ability to create new solutions on the fly. When one hunting strategy failed, we invented another. When one type of shelter proved inadequate, we designed a better one. Nature thrives on patterns and predictability. An apex predator knows exactly how its prey will behave. But humans became unpredictable. We were constantly changing our tactics, our tools, and our social structures. And to a force like nature, which operates on established rules, this unpredictability was dangerous. We were a moving target, impossible to pin down. By the time we started building the first farms and permanent villages, the immediate threat of extinction had begun to fade. We had crossed a critical threshold. Survival was no longer a day-to-day battle against overwhelming odds. Of course, nature never stopped challenging us. There were still floods, droughts, epidemics, and earthquakes. But these events no longer had the power to control our destiny completely. We had learned the rules of the game. We understood the patterns. We had spread across the globe. And we had the intelligence to innovate our way out of trouble. And once you understand the rules of survival, extinction becomes a whole lot harder. So, why are we still here? Nature almost won, but humanity survived, not because we were destined to rule the world, but because we learned how not to disappear. We learned to listen, to predict, to spread out, to adapt, and to innovate. That ancient legacy of survival, of turning weakness into strength and observation into power, still lives inside each and every one of us today. It's the reason we build, explore, and constantly ask why. And it's a powerful reminder that our greatest strength has never been our muscle, but our mind. Thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed this journey into our deep past, be sure to subscribe for more.